Recently, I was learning API testing and wanted to experiment with real APIs. So if you're a Spotify user, you probably noticed that your recommended songs or Discover Weekly playlist contains quite similar songs that you're usually listening to, which can make you feel stuck in the same music loop. So in this video, I want to share how I automated adding new releases to my playlist and will explain how customizable music search parameters can be, so you can use it in your advantage. So before executing anything, I made sure I have my Postman ready. I created my dummy account on Spotify. I also created the Spotify for Developers app, where I copied my client ID and client secret into the authorization. So if we go here, I created two secrets. I created two global variables, as you can see here, and as well as I got the token from the Spotify app as well. So I don't want to go into details how I've done it, because I think there's quite a lot of tutorials on YouTube and a lot of information. But there are two things that I want to mention because I struggle with it and I don't think there was a lot of information in the internet. So one of the things, if you try to run this request and it doesn't work, try to untick this authorize using a browser and just use your local callback URL. And secondly, if you run your requests and you get maybe response 200 when it's supposed to be 201 or 202, there might be a problem with some metadata or with your headers. So I highly recommend, when you choose one of these requests, just copy one of the request samples here as a CURL and import it manually right here. Okay, let's begin with creating a new playlist. Let's delete the existing requests. And now if we're going to go to our Spotify web player, we can see we don't have any playlist at the moment. So first thing, let's actually copy the request sample for creating a playlist request. If we copy these, and as I was shown before, if we will try to import it, it should be fine. Let's give it the name as well. Create a new playlist and import into collection. Okay, lovely stuff. So first thing, what we need to do is to set up our authorization type. It's going to be 2.0. And we also need to provide the token, because we're going to sign it now. It's not going to work. It will just say the missing authorization. So we need to make sure that our token is not expired, because token gets expired every an hour. So you need to refresh it. At the moment, I don't have to. And we also can add this token to our token global variable. So in that case, we don't need to manually update tokens every time it's expired for every request. So what we can do, we're just going to use the global variable token, and it automatically updates it. So that's great. Yeah, our client ID, client secret has been updated as well. Scope set to public. And let's look at the body. So here we will give a name to our playlist, our description, and I'll set it to public as well. So true. Okay, so it'll be a cool playlist, new cool description. And here, so because this is the base and we don't really want to repeat ourselves, I've created a base URL, which also contains API Spotify, so we don't have to write it all the time. And where the users, we can use our user ID, where we can go here and just copy it, or for the simplicity, we can just put me and it automatically understands what user we are referring to. So v1/me playlist. Now, if I'm going to try to send this request, it should work. I'm not sure if it's actually worked, because we had 200. It's pretty sure it's supposed to be 201. Okay, so for some reason, it doesn't really like when you use a global variable. So maybe when you create a playlist, make sure that it's used the full field. So okay, perfect. We got the 201. And if we're going to go to Spotify, we can see that our cool playlist has been created. Great. We don't have any songs at the moment, but this is what we're going to do now. Another thing, let's make sure that the playlist that we just created, it's added to our global variable. So we can do it in two ways. We can just have a look into the body response. So this is the album ID, so we can just copy this, or alternatively, we can just have a look here, do the same thing, copy link to the playlist, open a new tab, and copy it here, just this part of the ID. So when we copy this, we can go to our global variables and make sure, this is our global variable that I created, make sure that all the songs that we'll be adding will be added exactly in this cool playlist we just created. Great. Okay, now let's look at search requests where we can use different parameters to get various item results. So as you can see, we have a get request, and there's quite a few query parameters. If we go to Spotify for developers and we will choose search for item, here it will be quite well explained what every parameter mean and what we can use, what type of filters we can use. For example, in a query string, we can use different filters like album, artist, year, etc. Type is what type of release, is it album, is it a show, episode, playlist, so on. Market, in which country this release is available in, and limiter, this is how many releases we want to see in the result. So if it's only 50, we'll have a 50 different releases. There are other things, but it's out of the scope of this video. But what caught my attention about was this particular tag, tag semicolon new and tag semicolon hipster, which was quite interesting. The fact that the tag new will return albums released in the past 2 weeks, and hipster will return only albums with the lowest 10 popularity, which I found it quite cool, because if I will use these tags, I can explore more music that I haven't heard of and hopefully extend my music knowledge. So therefore I use tag semicolon new, and when you use these tags, you also have to use tab as an album. So this is exactly what I've done. My query is tagged semicolon new, tab is set to album. So when I run this request, it doesn't exactly mean that all the releases will be album, because even if the song has, if the release has one song, it's still considered to be an album. So we'll see all the releases, even if it's not an album. Yeah, and my market is about to Great Britain because that's where I am, and limit is how many releases I want to see. I wanted to make it as a variable, and I set it up to 10, so it'll be 10 releases. And let's have a look. If I will send this request, it should work. Great, 200 as it's supposed to be. And we can make sure that we'll have 10 results. So because if I type total, I will have done it. So this is our first release. It's 1. It has 1 track. Second release has 4 tracks. Then 1, 1, 1. This is 14, etc. And we have 10 of them. So everything works great. So before looking at the script, let's try to understand what we are trying to achieve. First, we got our releases. We have 10 different releases. Some of them set as a single, have only 1 song. Some set as an album, have like 14 different songs. That's great. Now what we want to do, we want to fetch release one by one. So using this get endpoint IPA, we're gonna fetch first release. Then using the second request, we're gonna fetch all the songs from that release. And in the post request, we're gonna add all these songs to our playlist that we created before. So let's begin. If we go to our script, we have a few variables. The first variable is I, and it's set to album number. So it tracks what album number we are currently set to. Or no, not currently, but probably one after. I'll explain in a sec. Then we have a variable called current album ID, and this tracks what currently album ID we're trying to fetch. So it's set to response data. Response data is in a JSON format. Albums. So this is albums. Then we have items. And item set as an array, because it is an array. We have multiple items inside it. 10 different results, so that's why it is an array. And I, because this is an alpha variable, will be scrolling between multiple releases. This will be adjusted accordingly. And then because we're looking for release ID, we have this .id as well, and it is this one. So we are using this script to get all the IDs one by one from all these releases. That's great. Previous ID, it gets album ID as a global variable. And look, it's not set up yet, but it will be the previous one. Again, I'll explain it in the if statement. And then we have also max number in response. This is our limit value, so it's set to 10. As long as the release value is lower or equal to 10, we can execute our if statement. If it's above 10, so it's impossible, we will get our warning sign saying the response has reached its maximum item return, and the album ID will be set to null. So let's have a look. Because I tracks the album number, it starts with a 0, as we define it here, initialized here. Then if current album ID not equal to the previous one, so we make sure that IDs do not match, or the previous ID is set to null, we can execute our logic. So what's going on here? First, we because we want to scroll, we add one to our I variable. We're not going to set it up straight away. We just use it for the next iteration. Then we're going to set our album number to the new I number, which is going to be 1. But, and here is an important thing, we're going to set up our album ID to our current album ID. And the current album ID doesn't include this line. It actually takes the value defined here, and this starts with a 0, not with 1. And if, for example, as I put it here, if I would use this specific line, that's going to be 1. So, okay, it might be confusing. I'll explain with a practical example here. So if we're going to run it now, it will use item and I will be equal to 0. So I expect that the item, the ID we will get will be equal to this 0m6. Let's have a look. Yeah, and this is exactly what we got. But for example, if this was set to 1, again, let's initialize it. In that case, the ID will be of the second release. So now we got 5J. And if we scroll down, this is the second release. Oh, was it 5J? I just saw it. Yeah, here we go. So this is the second release. Yeah, so every time when we call this request, it's going to scroll to the next release. And we can do it until we reached 10 releases. Oh, okay, I need to put it back to I. My bad. Another thing, we can also debug it because I use some debugs here. So if we're gonna go to the console, let's clear it, let's call it. We can see, let's initialize it. Yeah, so we can see our current album index is 0, album name, and its ID. We call it again. It's gonna be the second release, its name, its ID, and etc. So everything works fine. We got our current release and its ID, as you can see here in the console, and also it's set up here. It's a global variable, album ID. And this global variable we're going to use for our next request, which is going to fetch all the songs from our current album ID. So as you can see, it's in its URL. Yeah, perfect. So let's first run this request, and then we're going to talk about its script. So in our result, we can see everything about this release. But most importantly, we need to see the total number, this how many songs it contains, and another few other things. So pretty much, the script itself has the same logic as the previous one, with a few small adjustments. First, it's not an if statement, it's actually a for loop. And we need to use a for loop because let's imagine the release has more than 1 song, maybe like 5 songs. We want to fetch not just 1 song, but we want to fetch all the 5 songs and add them all to our playlist. That's why we use a for loop. And in order to add all the songs, we use a separate global variable called songs ID. So if we're going to look at all variables, we're going to see it. It's right here. And because this particular release has only 1 track, that's why we have only 1 ID. Also, you probably noticed before the ID, we have a prefix here, Spotify semicolon track. And when you add songs to the playlist, you need to use this prefix. And that's why when we look for this specific ID, we don't look for the ID, we're looking for URI, which is right here. But at the same, it's the same as an ID. So this is the main difference, but at the same time, there's a few more things. As I said previously, there can be multiple songs. And in that case, we will use a push command, which will add all the tracks to our song ID. In order to separate them, we use a comma. And for this reason, we will use command joined. So between the IDs, there will be there will be a comma, so we'll know that it's a separate ID and a separate song. And another thing, despite we set up in our previous request, mark it as Great Britain, and even in the second request, we also set up that we want to see songs available in British market. Still, when you run these API calls, some of the songs will be not available. It's a bit weird, but this is how it works. So maybe the release is available to preview, but the songs to play in that release won't be available too. So in the case we have unplayable songs, we don't want to add them to our playlist because it's pointless. And for this reason, we have a Boolean calls is song playable. When it's song playable, it's the same Boolean that is in the body. If it starts to true, we're going to execute and we're going to add the song to our song ID. If it's not true, we're going to skip the song and then carry on to the next song in our release. If all songs in the release are not playable, we're just going to skip the next request all together, and we're going to go back to the beginning of searching for next top album. I just want to show you guys when you add multiple releases, not just one, but I think because I think it'll be more interesting to watch. Okay, so we're gonna go now. Any results? Yes, there's definitely like 4K. So here what I mean, here we have 14 releases. We're gonna look in our Spotify ID, it's gonna be massive because this is how many songs we are going to add to our album. So let's actually proceed with this. If we go to our post request, this is actually quite simple because here we set up before our playlist ID, our core playlist, and the song ID has all these songs in that release. So we also set up a position to 0. So that means every time we add a new song, it's going to be at the top of the playlist, not at the bottom. Let's have a look once again on our current state of our album. It's completely empty. Just make sure. Yes, there's no songs. And now when we run these commands, the magic should happen. Great, so 201 created, there is our snapshot. If we go back, yay, happy days. We got the whole album that's been released in the last 2 weeks added to our current playlist. And we can see that's definitely a new album. It was released April 16th. Today is exactly the same day, so a brand new album to listen to. Great. So of course we can run all our requests manually, one by one. We're gonna retrieve our release, we're gonna fetch all the songs from there and we're gonna add it manually to our playlist. But in Postman you can also automate it. I actually done it a few minutes ago, but I realized I had this few small issues. So there was some syntaxes problem, and I also omitted a few lines, like PM execution. Hopefully if I'm gonna run it now, it's gonna be fine. But just to make sure, we initialize our album number, otherwise we're gonna add only the last release. This is not what we need. Great, so if we're gonna press here, we're gonna press run. Yeah, so in our route sequence, we have like 2 get requests. So get the release, get all the songs from release, and add it to our playlist. Iteration number will be equal to our limit number, because this is going to be how many times this load going to iterate. So because we set up 10 releases, it will be 10. And the delay between the execution, let's set it up to 1500 milliseconds. So hopefully when I press run playlist API calls, it's going to work. In the real time, we can see what's going on. So we'll get a good. First it passed, second one passed, it posted finally. So if we're going to go to, the playlist, we can see in the real time, all the new songs are added. Which is great. And let's see until it's finished. Now I believe this is the last song. Yeah, seems like it. Let's have a look. Yeah, it has finished. All 80 tests has passed. Perfect, we don't have any issues. And that's amazing. I mean, you can double check that this is the latest releases. Yeah, 2025 was released yesterday. Amazing. And now I have a playlist to listen to and explore new music. So I just created a new playlist. It's called Metallica playlist. And now let's explore different parameters that we can use in our search request. So before that, we were using tag new. And if we go to the web page, you can see that tag new always it has to be used with the album type. In this case, if we want to search for different material, it can be a different type. But for the simplicity, I will just keep it album again. But in the query, I will select the following. So I want to search only for Metallica songs, so artist is Metallica, and the track will include the word remaster. And here's a bit confusing. So not the actual track of Metallica song will have the word remaster, but the album's track will have a word remaster. Okay, and let's put maybe 7 releases, 7 albums that we want to fetch. And now if we run this code, iteration 7 times, delay, let's put it 500 milliseconds, and hopefully everything will be fine. Let's see, get post. Okay, let's go to a playlist. Right, great. So we got Metallica, Garage, Lights, and Justice for All the albums fetched correctly. Fuel, and Death Magnetic. Okay, I think this is the last one. Yeah. So as you can see, not all of them have a word remaster in the album name. I'm not too sure why. Again, anything can happen, but most of these fetch albums have the word remastered in them, and we create a unique custom playlist. So feel free to play around and explore what you can come up with these search queries, and hopefully you find this video useful. Take care.